What is going on with elderly Christian men? How does a man who has sold more than 15 million Christian books end his life being exposed for having an affair for the last 8 years? Hold on. This announcement gets even more shocking because this man began having an affair on his wife of 55 years at the age of 68. And now at the age of 76, his ministry is totally shut down. All of his life's work now has been discredited. It's hard to imagine many things more tragic. Who is the man we are talking about? Best-selling author Philip Yancey. He confessed through his former employer, Christianity Today, that he'd been having an affair with a married woman. We're going to listen to his confession, and I encourage each and every one of us to listen to this very, very carefully, especially if you are a dude. The Bible warns us, take heed, lest something like this destroys, whether you're in ministry or not, it can destroy your life and the lives of those you care for. I want you to put yourself into the shoes of the author of this confession. Think about your context. If you had to write this letter, what would you be going through? What would your spouse be going through? How would your children be feeling about dear mom or dad? Never imagine something like this can't happen. The second that you do, you are ripe for a fall. So am I. So as we hear this confession, imagine the devastation his wife feels, the devastation he feels. Oh, how's about the family of the woman with whom he had this affair? Let this shake us and perhaps rip us out of a state of complacency so that we do not find ourselves in the headlines at the New York Times. The statement read, "To my great shame, I confess that for 8 years I willfully engaged in a sinful affair with a married woman." That's worth exploring, but we're not going to, because we're going to explore a different point that is far more personal for you and for me. Back to the statement, my conduct defied everything that I believe about marriage. It was also inconsistent with my faith and my writings and caused deep pain for her husband and both of our families. I will not share further details out of respect. I've confessed my sin before God and my wife. I've committed myself to a professional counseling and accountability program. I have failed morally and spiritually, and I grieve over the devastation I have caused. Let's not get carried away with this mental exercise, but just as carefully as you can imagine for a moment, you're writing this letter because you done did what this fellow done did. How'd you be feeling? Your entire life is now besmirched because of your current behavior. Imagine. This man just said, I grieve over the devastation I have caused. Do you want to grieve? Do you want to end your life utterly broken and miserable? Back to Yancey's statement, I realize my actions will disillusion readers who have previously trusted in my writing. A side note, your fall, it will have ripple effects that will reach more people than you can even imagine at this moment. Worst of all, my sin has brought dishonor to God. Want that? We are instructed to make sure we don't think that can't possibly happen. Take heed. I'm filled with remorse and repentance, and I have nothing to stand on except God's mercy and grace. I'm now focused on rebuilding trust and restoring my marriage of 55 years. He's 76 years old right now. That's now his life's work is living in a state of perpetually having to clean up his mess. Having disqualified myself from Christian ministry, I'm therefore retiring from writing, speaking, and social media. Instead, I need to spend my remaining years living up to the words I have already written. I pray for God's grace and forgiveness as well as yours, and for healing in the lives of those I've wounded. End quote. I have zero interest in picking that confession apart. What does that serve? I don't know the man. I don't know the details. I don't know the situation. I don't have any desire to even go back and critique the work of Philip Yancey, because I think there's something more important than, let's just call it, Gnostic tabloid journalism for Christians, as if we've got some sort of special insight as to why this happened and comparing it to his, I'll let somebody else do that. The issue, in my opinion, is how does this happen? How does this happen specifically to older men? Have we not seen this trend? I've observed over the years that men who were once conservative and faithful they drift theologically, or they dive headlong into tragic sin. Have we not been shocked enough? So we do well to consider why this happens. Because if you have plans to grow old, you need to be aware lest you find yourself having to write a confessional letter. I can't tell you what goes on in the heart of any man, so I'm not thinking of Philip Yancey or any man in particular as we work through the reasons I believe that older men fall. This isn't like pot shots at individuals for the sake of clicks. This is for the sake of sparing all of us the pain and heartbreak of falling before we die and have to stand before our judge. So I've come up with 10. There's probably more. These are 10 reasons that I think older men experience either theological drift, they get all wonky and liberal, or we discover they've been living a lifestyle of sexual immorality for years. So I'm going to burn through the list pretty quickly to get to the important part, which is how to avoid being a man who falls. Number 10, spiritual complacency. A man either gets tired, lazy, it's a hormonal issue, or he becomes overconfident, and the result is a lack of prayer, private Bible reading, and a lack of vigilance, standing on the wall, looking out for that roaring lion who can devour you. Don't get tired, don't get lazy as you get older. Number 9, self-righteousness. Without realizing it, an older man can kind of become just quietly rather satisfied with personal holiness, and they let down their guard. Number 8, neglect of accountability. Hey, I don't need to be held accountable. Look at how far I've come. When that attitude creeps in, look out. Number 7, it can happen, marital drift or a completely dead marriage, and they go looking elsewhere. Number 6, some sort of late life crisis. 5, boredom. Just life, I've just done all of this stuff, and they feel like they need to conquer something. So they think that they're doing just that by wandering outside of the marital bounds. Number 4, bad online habits. That's right. Older men look at that garbage too. Number 3, success and comfort can foster a sense of entitlement. Now, this sounds a little psychobabbly, but I've seen this enough in biblical counseling. Hey, I worked really hard today, so click, I'm going to look at that. I deserve this indiscretion. Number 2, a lack of real engagement in a local church. I think this happens especially for higher profile guys. They just don't think that they need that because, they're so advanced. That is a massive signal that indicates, look out, that there could be a fall coming. And finally, number 1, as we age, I think we just have a tendency to soften. I don't know, is it hormonal? Is it the natural fruit of experience and maturity? We begin to see the world, and we begin to see even other professions of faith, other Christian sects, or even other religions, and we start to view them with more leniency, or we even view ourselves with more leniency. Perhaps the maturation becomes softness. And so the same grace that the Lord uses to shape and refine us in good ways, maturing, more thoughtful, more loving, more considerate, that can creep into our theology as compromise. So what begins as humility or even gentleness can become compromise, a softening of convictions that we once tenaciously held, maybe fought for over time, the sharp edges that protected our profession and our walk, they dull, and unbiblical concessions start to creep in, and you don't even realize it. Whatever the reason, the important thing is that we recognize, hey, there's a propensity for older dudes to drift theologically or morally, and we got to figure out what we need to do to avoid a similar tumbling. So here are 6 things. There's more, but here's 6 things that I think you should do if you are over 50, male or female, but I think I'm especially pointing at the fellas. If you're over 50, don't ignore any of these. Number 6, Double down on sanctification. That initial zeal you once had to fight sin, rekindle it. Seriously. Get back to that and double it, because something happens when you get older that can cause you to compromise. So avert your eyes more forcefully than ever. Don't linger on videos or Netflix garbage that you didn't used to watch, but not that. Don't do that. Don't let your fantasy life go unchecked. Get your thought life under control. Mortify sin more than ever. Number 5, don't grow lazy, complacent in your disciplines, your diligence, your war against sin. Are you as fervent about the means of growth, prayer, going to church, listening to sermons, reading your Bible, fellowship, taking the Lord's table, watching baptisms? Are you like on it? If you're not, you've already crept into the land that would start signaling danger, Will Robinson. Number 4, I think this is a danger. Do not abandon the severe attributes of God. Yep. As you get older, you should be growing in your love for the Lord as you study his love for you, but do not neglect his other attributes like righteousness and justice and wrath. Because I think what happens is we forget that God is a consuming fire. We forget that it's a terrible thing to fall into the hands of the living God. We grow complacent in our thinking that God won't discipline us because he's just so loving. We fall into a lovey-dovey ditch because we've neglected a focus also on his severe attributes, which leads us to number 3, which is definitely related. You've stopped fearing the Lord. Oh man, Scylla, when that happens, look out. You become comfortable and you fail to fear his displeasure. You fail to fear his discipline. You fail to fear him. Psalm 103 is fascinating. As high as the heavens are above the earth, so great is the Father's love for those who fear him. We need to have not a servile fear, but a reverential fear. If that's been dialed back on your fearometer, dial it back up. Number 2, if you don't think you need anybody holding you accountable, you have already gone off the rails. I'm not kidding. If it's like, well, I don't need to disclose things. I don't need to have anybody in my life to whom I'm accountable. Well, you're already off the track. Seriously. You've already wandered away. Your wife needs to have free access to all of your electronic devices. You need to let godly men into your life. Let them know about your business. Let them strike you and count it as a blessing. And then finally, number 1, and I get it. It's a little bit vague, but I've seen it enough, and I've seen men that find themselves compromising. This is especially true in their theology. They just get soft. We've seen some guys go all the way from proclaiming the gospel well to becoming universalists. What happens there? The answer is, I don't know what's going on, but you gotta watch the fine line between maturity and compromise. It's so subtle. And I think with it, you need 2 things to avoid that drift. And so do I, by the way. Good brothers who will speak into your life. You need that. You gotta have that. Second, rich, transparent involvement in your local church. Did you catch that? Rich. This isn't just you go to church on Sunday, you maybe read some of the emails. No. You're involved. And you're appropriately disclosing the inner workings of your heart. You're doing stuff with a group of believers with whom you're growing closer and closer. Make sure you're doing that. Because if you don't, you might get to the finish line having disgraced yourself. Take this seriously. Take heed. I am. Be sober-minded. Be on the alert. Don't grow weary. Don't coast. Do an assessment. How am I doing? How am I doing today compared to like 5 years ago in my walk in the disciplines? How am I doing in sanctification? How am I doing theologically? Why am I here today as opposed to where I was 20 years ago? And then make some adjustments. Take this seriously. Reach the end of your days without disgrace on yourself and heartbreak for those who love you. And worst of all, you don't want to bring shame on the name of the one who died to forgive you and adopt you and sanctify you and glorify you. Run the race hard. Even if you're immobile, run the race. Complete it well. Can you think of other warning signs? Can you think of other disciplines that would help older men and women to not crash and burn right before they meet their maker? If you do, you know what to do. Discuss.
Hi, Todd. Thank you for your faithful partnership with us. Thank you for loving the truth. Thank you for proclaiming it the way you do, making sure people know the distinction between what's true and what's not. You do a great job with that, and we're glad to have a friendship with you. Bless you.